Hello, guys, and welcome to Oddspedia Premier League Matchday 15. We are back with Tom Rennie. Hello, Tom. All good?
Hello, yes, very good. I'm really pleased that my prediction of West Ham losing at Man United and West Ham didn't score came off, so that really cheered me up.
Yeah, very straight victory, narrow victory, but there you have it. Well, let's go and analyze this new match day. I think is the penultimate before the World Cup, if I'm not wrong. So let's start with the game we have on Saturday. We have Leeds Bournemouth, and if your tip about Man United winning narrow to West Ham was correct, who could have thought about Leeds winning at Anfield 1-2, amazing victory. And it's funny, no, this Premier League, because the last two victories for Leeds came against Liverpool and Chelsea, and before 8 winless games. So this is very hard to predict. Whereas for Bournemouth, also taking the lead 2-0 against Spurs, but at the end they lost. What do you expect? Leeds to keep the run and the hype and beating Bournemouth again? The odds are very low, eh?
I mean, the odds are low. I mean, it's a strange one, this, because I don't rate Leeds still, despite the fact they won at Anfield, despite the fact they beat Chelsea. The deficiencies that were there last week remain there this week. But you kind of wonder whether, for some reason, they are just set up to win games like that. You know, in the same way that, Mourinho's old teams were set up to beat better teams in the Champions League by playing the drabbest, most awful football ever, nicking a goal, then not touching the ball again. Some teams have a way of beating certain other teams in a style. And Leeds' kind of wild pressing and hyper speed play when they get the ball, it's brilliant for away games against teams like Liverpool who send everybody forward. There are spaces to exploit. Plus, there's a group of players at Leeds who I think are raw and talented and young. People like Crescencio Somerville, people like Luis Sinistera, who you think, oh, hold on, they're going to be brilliant, these guys, but they're years before the peak of where they're going to be. So there is something there at Leeds. I wonder what it's like against teams that play deep, low block. There's no space in behind. Well, I don't wonder. We've seen it over and over again. We saw it against Leicester City. We saw it against Crystal Palace. We've seen it loads of times this season where Leeds simply could not break that down. Even Fulham, who aren't known as a low block side, bodies behind the ball, and Leeds could not break them down. So it's a different kind of challenge for Leeds United this weekend, but certainly boosted by the win against Liverpool last weekend. There's every chance they go out against this Bournemouth side, score a couple of early goals and get the game won. For Bournemouth, 3 defeats in a row now, 1 point in their last 4. They never look like winning against Tottenham, I don't think, even at 2-0 up. They just looked like they'd scored a couple of goals and were like, what do we do? What are we meant to be doing now? And there was no sort of style of play. It all sort of fell apart. It was a shame, really, but they look like a team now in need of identity. Either decide that Gary O'Neill is your manager or bring a manager in and let's start playing a certain way. They just sort of do things by accident. They're buzzing around. Things happen to them. Kiefer Moore comes on, scores a fantastic header in that game. He came on in the previous game against West Ham for the injured Solanke, who is sort of now fit, but didn't look great against Tottenham. So I think they're a team that are looking for some sort of identity, and currently they don't really have it. They have pulled off some good away wins this season. The Nottm Forest game was a terrific result. Also drawing at Newcastle, drawing at Fulham. They are capable of it, but there's 2 scorelines here for me. Number 1 is that both teams are going to score. Everybody scores against Leeds United. Everybody scores against Bournemouth. I can see it being quite an offensive and enjoyable game. I'd go the over 2.5, and I would just shade for Leeds. That's a 2-1. That's a 3-1. That's goals at both ends. Lots of drama. Leeds win.
All right, both teams to score 1.76 for this game. Then perhaps also we see many goals in the next one, Man City, Fulham. As you also said, it was a tight one against Leicester at the end. De Bruyne scored a free kick, a great goal, and they got the 3 points. It was more surprising the goalless draw of Fulham. Everton, still no defeats for Fulham in the last 4, but in the Etihad, you know what happens. Man City beat you.
Yes, I mean, most of the time. Yeah, I mean, we still don't know about Erling Haaland, but even without Erling Haaland, I wasn't that impressed by Julian Alvarez against Leicester, but I still think that he'll be more than enough goal threat to secure victory for City in this game. They've scored 37 goals this season. If you need to take away Haaland, they've still scored more goals than anyone else. 27 home goals scored, 6 straight victories. And they're going to win this game. They're going to win this game. Briefly on Fulham, I think that offensively, they're impressive. Defensively, they've been poor, which kind of made the 0-0 draw against Everton really surprising. I worked on that game, and both teams had loads of great chances. Mitrovic had 10 shots in that game and didn't score a goal inexplicably. A couple of the chances as well were gilt-edged for a player of his quality. But you've got to look at City win. Of course, City win. Look at their form. Look at who they are. You're going to win a lot of bets this year betting on City. I will go Manchester City win. Fulham have one of the leakiest defences in the league, which is not a great place to be when you're going to Man City. 22 goals conceded. I think at least 2, maybe 3. I'd be looking at your Asian handicap here. And if you want to do Man City -3, you get that at 3-1. So I'll go with that.
Okay, this is your Asian handicap game. And next one, Nottingham Forest, Brentford. It was our Asian handicap game, Arsenal Forest, 5-0. For Arsenal, remember that the last time they played in this ground, they beat Liverpool, though, 1-0. At home, at least they are getting the results. And Tom, we know that Brentford are awful when they are playing away, only 3 points, no victories yet. This is the ground to do it.
Yes. Terrible game to bet on this one because all results seem possible. Really poor. I just think I wouldn't go Brentford for the reason that you said, which is the fact they haven't won away all season. And Brentford have gone from sublime in some games, Leeds, Brighton, Man United, to awful, Newcastle, Aston Villa. I think that Thomas Frank will be really keen to keep the score down here, considering some of the tankings that Brentford have taken on the road this season. And Nottingham Forest, some good performances this season. The win over Liverpool, the obvious example, but I thought they were dreadful on Sunday against Arsenal. The defensive solidity they'd recently found in games like Brighton away had gone. And I think that may well be the story of it for Forest. They can hold it together for a few big games, but consistently, they're not going to be there. It's a horrible game to bet on this one. I'd be looking at both teams certainly scoring it. I don't see it being wildly entertaining, truth be told. I think you're looking at under 2.5 and a 1-1 draw. Look at the draw market. Look at Brentford score first. And look at another draw on the road for Brentford, 3rd for them, and another game for Forest at home where they cannot score more than 1 goal. Their victories this year have come from scoring 1 goal in them, then keeping it clean. And I don't think that'll happen in this one. So draw, both teams score.
1.95 under 2.5 goals. The draw, you have good odds, 3.58. And I guess it's not a better one to bet on. The next one, Wolves Brighton, perhaps also actually is the draw is a good option. Wolves still in relegation, at least they got a point against Brentford, and Brighton, one of the performances of the weekend. Remember, destroying Chelsea with Potter going back to their stadium, his stadium.
I would imagine this game is, I don't know if both teams can have 100% possession, but this may be the game where it happens. I don't know if it's mathematically possible. I failed maths. But I feel like both these teams are going to see a lot of the ball and create very few chances because that is how they both play. Brighton do it more effectively. Wolves simply can't score a goal. You know, they scored a terrific one against Brentford from Neves a couple of days ago. But apart from that, they don't really look like getting through on goal. They don't create chances. And now they've got Diego Costa suspended. Would you believe it? For a headbutt against Brentford. Already Kalidžić, already Jimenez. So they go into this game without all of the strikers. Again, I think that will cost Wolverhampton Wanderers. They are good when it comes to passing the ball around in midfield. But when it comes to scoring goals, they are simply not there. That's the story we could have told about Brighton so many times over the years. But I think in Leandro Trossard, they've got someone who can actually strike a ball firmly and hard in the bottom corner. And it sounds real basic, but that's the game sometimes. When the guy's got the ball in the opposition area, does he have what it takes to score? Leandro Trossard does have that, and I think that may be a difference maker here. I'd be looking at Wolverhampton Wanderers do not score. It's one of the safest bets of the season so far because it's happened so consistently. There's 3 of the last 5 games they've not scored 1 goal against Brentford, but in general, they don't score or it's under 1.5 for Wolverhampton Wanderers. There's every chance this game may well finish 0-0. Double chance it with a Brighton victory, but I would go the under scoreline. Under 1.5, in fact, which is 0-0, 1-0 either way, and I'd tip for Brighton.
Well, you have a clean sheet for Brighton is 2.75. If you go under 2 goals, for instance, you have good odds, 2.5 as well. So if there are 2 goals, you get your money back. And perhaps also another low scoring game is going to be Everton, Leicester City. Everton, they want to keep it tight always. It's true that the last home victory was a 3-0 against Palace, but again, usually we see low scoring games when Lampard is involved, and Leicester, they are getting better and better at defending, Tom, even only getting one against City, and it was from set pieces. They got good results against Wolves and Leeds. Another tight one here?
Yeah, I think so. I think 0-0 draw, 1-1 draw. Certainly look at the draw market for this game. In terms of Everton, they should have lost against Fulham. Should have lost at the weekend. Mitrovic just could not knock snow off a rope. His accuracy was diabolical against Everton the weekend just gone. Beyond that, I think the Cottagers would have won. I think that Tarkowski and Cody still look terrific at centre-half, getting lots of good blocks on, but going forward, Calvert-Lewin still looks a shadow of what he once was. Damari Gray looks amazing, then useless in the space of 10 seconds. Anthony Gordon seems to be too concerned with getting booked than he is creating chances. So there are issues with Everton going forward. And I think Idrissa Gana's come back in central midfield and looks a bit of a liability. Anana looks good, but raw. And I think there's a little issue there with the balance of the 3-man midfield that Everton are currently playing. For Leicester, Johnny Evans is out injured. Charlie Osuonchu's coming from the cold to play alongside Wout-Faes at centre-half, and they look like a good, bulky central defensive pairing. That's something that Leicester have been missing for quite some time. That's made a big difference. Plus the win over Wolves a couple of weeks ago that no one saw coming has given everyone a shot of confidence. They win this game, Leicester, and they can move up towards the top half of the bottom half after a dreadful start to the season. That would be a tremendous achievement going into the final week of pre-World Cup games next weekend. If you look at the form at home, Everton, when they have won, it's been close, it's been tight. In the game they've lost, it's been close, it's been tight. Look at the scorelines: 1-1, 0-0, 1-0, 1-2. Only the Crystal Palace game, the most recent victory, is the anomaly in that run. I think you go back to those other scorelines, go low scoring, go under 2.5 in this game. I'd be looking at a huge corner count as well for both teams, so above 10 corners in this game. And I'd be looking at the draw market, maybe just shade for Everton without conceding, but I certainly wouldn't go high scoring in this match.
Another under again. Well, the most interesting game of the weekend, Chelsea, Arsenal. We have 5 games on Saturday, 5 games on Sunday. This Chelsea-Arsenal can lose the leadership of the Premier League. City are playing on Saturday, and this is a tough one against Chelsea. But right now, Arsenal look way better after thrashing Forest, and also because Chelsea's form, we were concerned, Tom, in our previous video about this Chelsea. They were getting the results, but they were not playing particularly good. And at the weekend against Brighton, they didn't even get the results.
Yes, it doesn't look great at the moment for Chelsea. I know the results suggest that things have been going well for Graham Potter. The results are sort of memeable, if you like. The first English manager, the first Chelsea manager, that sort of nonsense, and that's fine. But if you watch them, the eye test, they're not passing it. They aren't a particularly pleasing team to watch. The formations are a bit random, if anything. Pulisic and Sterling at wing-back doesn't make sense. Aubameyang's in, but then he's out. Havertz is in, but then he's out. There's issues there. And in central midfield, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, he has been bombed out of Chelsea so many times now, and suddenly he's starting every single game for them. It doesn't really make sense. Plus, defensively, going into the Brighton game, and I mentioned this to you before, Thiago Silva, Trevor Chalobah, and Marc Cucurella is a really weak defensive trio. There is not really a top defender at the peak of their powers in that group. Thiago Silva, though still very good, is nowhere near the player he was 5 years ago. Trevor Chalobah, I'm not too sure if he's anywhere near Premier League quality, certainly Chelsea quality. And Marc Cucurella is a wing-back. He's not a centre-half. I don't get why they bought him for 50 million to replace Rudiger in that role. He's not Rudiger. Stop trying to make it happen. You bought another wing-back, so why not play him at wing-back? It doesn't make a great deal of sense to me, even with injuries. there seems to be other scenarios that Chelsea can do, including going to 4 at the back, which they do mid-game more often than not, because this is not working. So there's a bunch of issues there with Chelsea. And it's worth noting, too, in their last home game against Man United, they were thoroughly outplayed the entire game and were very, very lucky to win it. And that's happened a few times this season. West Ham at home also springs to mind. So at the moment with Chelsea, I just don't know. I don't know who's going to play. I really don't know how they're going to play. I really hope they don't go into this game with Pulisic and Sterling at wing-back, but we'll see what Graham Potter's thought process is. For Arsenal, despite the big victory over Forest, Forest were lambs to the slaughter. They were always going to lose that game and lose that game big. So, I was impressed to a point. I've been more impressed by Arsenal in other games this season. I don't think that was their best performance. My concern is twofold for Arsenal. Number one is the injury to Bukayo Saka. I know Reece Nelson came on and did really well against Forest, but how injured is Bukayo Saka? How long is Bukayo Saka going to be out? As we record, I do not know. And Gabi Jesus, the goals have dried up. And he is still playing well, but without scoring goals, your number 9 scoring goals, you don't end up Premier League champions. And you certainly don't win games like this. So that would be my concern for Arsenal at this moment in time. But they are the best team away from home in the Premier League this season. 13 points picked up, just the 1 defeat. That was at Old Trafford. They've beaten big teams this season, though at home in Tottenham and Liverpool most notably. So it's a fascinating game.
Yes.
If I was going to pick any scoreline, it would be a draw. I think that this game often brings out the best in Arsenal and it will lift Chelsea's game. I think a draw and both teams score 1-1 is very, very likely. But the other aspect of this game that I really like is late drama. I love the fact this game could be level on 80 minutes, and that's when the drama starts to happen. And if that goes that way, I think Arsenal win it. Go level after 80, Arsenal win it from 80 to 90. Late goals, Arsenal win, both teams score.
Fascinating game. Indeed, both teams to score is 1.76. Arsenal to win, 2.8 is basically very level. The odds, and so the draw is also very likely at 3.55. Great game. And, right now we have Chelsea out of the European spots, 6, and Man United, they climbed into the 5th spot, and they are going to Villa Park, Aston Villa, Man United, with Emery, I guess, on the bench. Let's see. They were thrashed by Newcastle 4-0. The last home game was a victory, we have to say, against Brentford 4-0, but this United are coming also into a good run, Tom, and getting closer and closer to the top 4.
Yeah, look, with Villa, Emery should be on the touchline for this game. He wasn't there for the poor performance at Newcastle this weekend, and he wasn't there for Brentford either, but he should be there for this match. It's a full week of training too, so hopefully he would have been able to give some idea to his players about what he wants from them. So I'll keep my powder dry pretty much on Villa in this prediction, only to say at home this year, they put in some really, really good performances. They have thrashed Brentford recently, which we've spoken about. They played brilliant against Chelsea, but went on to lose that game. They beat Southampton. They drew against Man City. It's only really West Ham at home where they lost 1-0 and were really poor. Beyond that, at Villa Park, where they picked up 3 victories this season, a solid mid-table performance, they've been quite good and maybe could have got more points than they've actually got. But we'll see what Unai Emery wants to do with this team. In terms of Manchester United, I thought they were very poor against West Ham for long spells. Another real game where if West Ham had someone who could shoot straight, Man United would have lost it. Rashford is back in form. That's terrific to see. He scored a Ronaldo-style header. I think the real improvement with Manchester United is defensively. Even a good performance from the much maligned Harry Maguire this weekend. But they've stopped conceding rubbish goals. A goalless draw against Newcastle, just a 1 goal conceded against Chelsea. That was a dubious penalty. Beyond that, they've kept clean sheets in their last 4 matches. No goals from open play conceded in 4, just 1 in 5. That was the Everton game where they ended up winning 2-1 at Goodison Park anyway. So defensively, with Lisandro Martinez and Diogo Dalot and the goalkeeper David De Gea, they have been superb for the last few weeks. And I would expect that to continue in this game. I don't think Aston Villa are going to score against Manchester United. And I think whatever happens, that is going to be a crucial component to this game. It's whether United can score at the other end. When they've won recently, it's not been big. I can see this being a very similar performance to the Everton game, where they get one, maybe a second, no more than that. Man United win without conceding. And I would look as well at the goals coming in the second period, not the first period.
Beautiful odds for Man United clean sheet, for instance, 3.0. Man United to win, the odds are quite high as well, 2.13. So if you go to win 2-0, you get odds of 3.8. High ones for Man United to win in Villa Park. Next game, Southampton, Newcastle, with Newcastle still in the top 4 in a great peak of form in the last 6 games. 5 victories, 1 draw, the one you mentioned at Old Trafford. Beautiful goal, the score by Almiron. Everything is going smoothly in the north of England, but going to Southampton perhaps is a bit more difficult. They were able to stop Arsenal in the last home games, and usually also in the last 4 games for Southampton, we are not seeing many goals, Tom. All 4 under 2.5 goals.
Yes, and I'd be certainly looking for that from a Southampton perspective again. They are the worst team at home in the Premier League this season. Just 1 victory, 3 draws, 2 defeats, just 7 goals scored. And frankly, in some of those games too, like the Arsenal and West Ham games, they got 1-1 draws. They should have been thrashed in both of them. A bunch of bad refereeing decisions in the Arsenal games, a bunch of missed chances at West Ham, would you believe it? It cost West Ham in that game. So not impressed by Southampton at all. I think that offensively, they've got a budget championship forwards. The midfield beyond Ward-Prowse is not impressive. And the defence without Bella Kotchap, it means someone like Lianco has come in, who's a bit wild, actually. He's a very inconsistent tackle first, ask questions later defender. So I have no faith in Southampton here, certainly not enough to put any money on it. I think if they score 1, they might be able to hold Newcastle to a 1-1 draw like they did in the last couple of home games against better teams. But I mean, Newcastle have been impressive. You've got to say they've been very, very impressive. Even away from home, just 1 defeat in their last 5, scored plenty of goals in that run, beat Tottenham at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium last time out. Everyone's full of vim and vigour and confidence. Callum Wilson is scoring regularly, 2 assists and 2 goals for Callum Wilson in the last game. So there's a lot of really, really impressive stuff happening right now with Newcastle United. Plus, defensively, they're not conceding many goals as well. Really impressed by Sven Botman, Dan Burn, Fabian Schär, Nick Pope, Kieran Trippier, I think maybe has been one of the most outstanding players in the Premier League this season. So I think there's every chance this will be another relatively low-scoring game. I can see Newcastle winning it by a small margin. I'd be looking here for Southampton do not score in this game. Newcastle score 1, 2 at absolute best. Newcastle win. Callum Wilson to score one of the goals in a 2-0 victory, but go under 2.5.
Under 2.5 goals, 2.10. The Newcastle, they are the best defense in the Premier League. Only 10 goals conceded. So the under could be a good option, especially with this price, 2.10. More games, West Ham, Crystal Palace. You mentioned the defeat, but perhaps West Ham could have grabbed a point in Old Trafford, but at home they won the last 3. Perhaps another tight one against Palace. We thought it was going to be a draw. The Palace Southampton, at the end, they beat them, and they are out of the relegation thanks to the home form. But away, Crystal Palace, they are quite poor. Tom, no victories yet, only 3 points.
Yeah, West Ham are the most infuriating team this season because I don't really believe in XG, but if I did, West Ham would be 8th or 7th in the table because they create so many good chances, so many scoreable chances, and keep finding ways not to score them. They should have got at least a draw in a lot of the away games they've played this season. Nottm Forest, Everton, Man United, Liverpool, and they keep finding ways not to score when the chance presents itself. They're even missing penalties on a regular basis this season. But at home, you know, David Moyes delivers home wins. Are they thrilling? No. Are they particularly entertaining? No. But the wins recently over Fulham, over Bournemouth, over Wolves, they were much needed. And if West Ham win this game and beat Leicester next week, it's 20 points after 15 games, which is a pretty reasonable total considering how bad the start to the season was. So I think West Ham will take this game and next week very, very seriously. Plus, worth noting on Thursday, West Ham play Steaua Bucharest, but they've won the group. So I imagine it'll be the youth team and a couple of players who are coming back from injury might get a few minutes in that game. But it's one of the first times this season that West Ham would not have had a taxing midweek game as well as the Premier League game at the weekend. I think that has cost them at times. Hopefully for West Ham, Lucas Paqueta is back. I think it's evident when he's not there now, there's no other creativity in this team. David Moyes insisting in playing Flynn Downs in that number 10 role when he's a number 6. Very, very strange. And that's led to West Ham being under creative in recent games. But at home, they have got the job done. At home, they've kept the scores low. At home, they've not conceded many goals. Crystal Palace, as you mentioned, haven't won an away game all season. If they're to stay in the league, which they will, I think, it'll be built on home victory. So I would suggest this game is going to be a tough watch. I think it'll be goalless for a long spell. I think West Ham will get over 10 corners. I think that I'd be looking at Crystal Palace to score 1 or less, West Ham to score 2 or less. So I'd be looking at West Ham win by a goal to nil. That's really what I feel here. And that goal would be coming from a corner. So West Ham to win, 10 corners in the game, under 2.5 in the match, which is 1-1 or West Ham win 1 or 2-0. I would just shade for West Ham in a tight game.
Odds are around 2 if you go for West Ham to win. West Ham to win 2-0. If you spice it up, 3.25. And the last game, Tottenham-Liverpool, another defeat. Wow, Liverpool this season against Leeds, 4 defeats so far this season, and away they've been awful. Only 2 points going to the Spurs ground. Also, they are not great right now. Tottenham, they are playing in the Champions League, a tough one. What do you think about this Tottenham-Liverpool? Surprisingly, Liverpool are favorites. I wouldn't put them favorites for this game.
No, I don't think I would either, though. I've watched a lot of Tottenham this season, and it really is a tough watch. Like, they are such a drab team to watch, and Antonio Conte's style is not quite gelling with what Tottenham fans expect from their team. So you've got a brilliant attacking group of players in terms of Son and Harry Kane and 1 or 2 others, Perisic when he's on the field, Rodrigo Bentancur, who was exceptional again, I thought, at Bournemouth a couple of days ago. But they are asked not to attack. They are asked not to take risks. They are asked not to do anything until the 60th minute. Then go on a frenzied attacking spell, score, and then shut the game down again. They defend so deep and have so many players back, they encourage you to shoot from outside the box. Often goals from outside the box don't go in, but when they do, that's the Tottenham game plan totally over. So it's weird with Tottenham right now. Also, it's worth noting against Newcastle, they were thoroughly outplayed in their last home game against Bournemouth, though Bournemouth were poor. Tottenham still contrived to lose 2 games. How many players are going to be injured or unfit or not at their best from Europe in midweek as well is also really interesting, because you cannot go into this game with a back 3 of Longley, Davinson Sanchez and Ben Davies. That's the 3 they played against Bournemouth, and it really did not work, especially Davinson Sanchez. I mean, come on. If he's a footballer, then I'm a pilot. Like, I cannot believe that he is at a top-level Premier League footballer. It's ridiculous. So, with Liverpool desperately poor against Leeds United, I thought. Same against Nottm Forest. The issues are there for all to see now. It doesn't take deep analysis to see that Darwin Núñez hasn't quite hit the ground running. Mo Salah is out of position. The midfield looks weak. There are 2 or 3 players short in there. Thiago may be a technically gifted player, but is he the right man in that midfield? Fabinho's underperforming. Harvey Elliott looks good then bad. Jordan Henderson not fit enough. We could go on and on and on. You could all see what the issues are with Liverpool at this moment in time, but they are still capable of a top-level performance. And I think it would have hurt them what's happened over the last couple of weeks. So I actually think here this might be a return to form game for Liverpool because of the way Tottenham play. They're going to cede the ball to Liverpool. Liverpool are going to dominate this game. And if Liverpool score a first goal, they go on to score a second goal, because Tottenham, if they come out, I think it'll play into Liverpool's hands. So Liverpool score first, Liverpool go on to win, both teams score. I go with the most common scoreline in football, which is 2-1. I think this will be a carbon copy of the game they played against Newcastle a couple of weeks ago. Liverpool will follow that blueprint to the letter. Tottenham will get over 10 corners because corners is their number one game plan. I'd expect their goal to be scored by Harry Kane too, but Liverpool score first. Liverpool win. Both teams score.
Well, so far, Liverpool, they are playing well in the high-profile games, apart from the game against Napoli. So perhaps they are done for a KO competition and not for the Premier League. But still, Tom trusts them to win in the north of London. This is the last game we have on Sunday. So let's listen to your safe bet for this week, Tom.
Yeah, my safe bet this week, I'm going back to the well of Manchester City. I think they will win. There's not great odds on that, though. If you want to go flat them to win, you can lump on big and you will make your money. Go with Man City with a -2 handicap. You do that at 1.91, you'll nearly double your money.
And your ACCA for the weekend?
Another treble this week. I've gone with results. I've gone with 3 really interesting away results. It's a bit risky. It comes in at 11.96 for Manchester United to win at Aston Villa, for Liverpool to win at Tottenham, and Arsenal to win at Chelsea. These are risky results, but at 12-1, it's a possibility that I quite like.
It is indeed very, very risky. Well, this is Tom's ACCA. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Tom, as always. And don't forget, if you enjoy our videos, press the like and subscribe. Tom, see you next week. Bye-bye.